Okay guys, welcome to Deadly Departed. If you are new here, please subscribe. If you're listening on the podcast, subscribe on iTunes. And if you're a returning viewer or listener, then thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate everybody's support. I'm loving all the questions that I'm getting. And I have a few things that I'm going to announce at the end, so make sure you stay to the end. Now, guys, today's going to be a bit different, okay? We're talking about clairaudience, and here's the thing, and this might not go against, it might go against the grain of some people's thoughts. I'm going to be busting some serious myths on clairaudience, guys. This is going to be no holds barred. I am going to bust the myths on clairaudience, and I'm going to tell you exactly what you should be looking for when it comes to understanding if you're clairaudient or not. So when we come right back, we are going to talk about the myths of clairaudience. God bless. Okay guys, so welcome back. Today, as I promised, we're going to talk about clairaudience, and as I had alluded to in my social media feeds, especially on Instagram, this came up from a question that was asked to me about what really is clairaudience, and is it true that this is an aspect to clairaudience? And so what I decided to do was to really kind of lay it on the line, bust the myths on really what, real clairaudience is. Because here's the thing, many people who claim that they're clairaudient, some are not, some don't understand it. And then there's many teachers will make anything fill up that makes it sound clairaudient. And when you understand the myths that I'm going to bust, it might give you some clarity in your mediumship development, and it might give you some clarity in if you're actually teaching or running a circle in some way and understanding that. So I don't mean to upset anybody. This is my opinion. This is through my years and years of development and training, and I want to be very honest because I believe in honesty is the best policy. I believe that in developing to work for spirit is an incredible service, but there's a lot of responsibility in it, and that even goes with our teaching. And so I only want to teach and give out the best advice that I possibly can that will support what spirit does. So let's just jump right into it, because I've got a lot to say. Each stage I'm going to go through what's true and what's not in each stage. So we're just going to start. What is clairaudience? Well, clairaudience is utilizing, it's a gift of the spirit, okay? It's how we hear spirit, how we hear voices, or how we hear information. But it's not with the ears, okay? It's with our body, our being, our I'm not going to get into chakras and all that kind of stuff, because that can get very new agey and stuff. I want you to understand that clairaudience is two different types. There's two ways of clairaudient in any of the gifts, really. There's a subjective and an objective, okay? Objective clairaudience is literally that you will hear. It's not direct voice, right? So if you hear an independent voice outside in a seance or something like that, or direct voice, that doesn't mean that you're clairaudient. Everybody in the room can hear it. Not everybody's going to be clairaudient, okay? So, but if you are, let's say, from an objective point of view, outside of you, if you are doing a reading, or you're meditating, or you're sitting, or you're in somewhere, and you hear a voice outside of you that is close to you but outside of you, maybe warning you or telling you information, and you hear it as if you're speaking to someone else outside of you, that is objective clairaudience. That's outside of you. Subjective is in your mind, and the best way that I can explain that is if I take one of my books off the shelf, and I read a book and I read a passage into myself, I hear that voice in my mind, okay? And that's a subjective voice I'm hearing. It's from my own being, within me, okay? So a subjective clairaudience may be, for instance, that you are concentrating on something, and all of a sudden you hear the voice inside of you. You hear a statement, a saying, a sentence, words or something and you're not consciously thinking of that thing. That is a subjective way of thinking of it. That's a subjective clairaudient. Now I could go on and we could go deeper and deeper and deeper, but I want to get through this list because I don't want to bore anybody, but we're going to crack on. Okay, so sensitive to noise. Is that a sign of clairaudience or not? True or false? What do you think? The answer is true. Most people who are clairaudient are very sensitive to noise. For one thing, my wife and I, and I'm a clairaudient medium predominantly. That's what I'm strongest in. I'm a strongest clairaudient medium, which is why I can give names and places and addresses and all that kind of stuff. So it kind of, when I'm in a situation that may be very busy, you know, maybe you're in a cafe or in a restaurant and there's a lot of noise going on, you can get very sensitive and almost feel that you're closed in. You feel like, oh, this is driving me crazy. This noise is just on me incessantly all the time. That's a sign that you're very sensitive to noise. And that would mean that you are predominantly, you know, you have a strength in clairaudience there, okay? So you could be out, you know, I don't like going to big, even in theatres, you know, my wife and I will go to a theatre and we're both clairaudient and we'll be sitting there and the film will come on and it's really loud and we can almost feel it where everybody else is feeling kind of more natural with it. Or you know, we'll be out somewhere and there's a lot of noise going on. So we tend to keep things quiet at home, and a lot of noise interferes with us. It disrupts our energy. It disrupts us. So that's a big sense of you being clairaudient. Okay, so that's true. Now, another thing that people have said, what's the next thing? Is this true or false? Very vocal, someone who talks a lot. Sign of clairaudience? What do you think? Absolutely not. It's completely false. Just because you're vocal does not mean you're clairaudient. A person who's continually speaking, I mean, we all know people that could talk the hind legs off a bloody donkey. It doesn't mean that they're clairaudient, okay? It's not that, you know, and all these signs have to kind of conjoin together. They have to be, you know, joining together in some way. But just because someone talks a lot, just because they're very vocal what they do, or they're vocal in giving advice to people or anything like that doesn't mean they're clairaudient. It doesn't mean that they're stronger in clairaudience. That's actually ridiculous. So that is completely false, because someone is very vocal that they're clairaudient. No, that's not true. Okay, so let's move on to the next one. And this is a little bit of a grey area, because it kind of is and kind of not. But a lot of people will say, okay, let's just jump into it. So, creative, musically creative, does that mean that you're clairaudient? What do you think? True or false? It is actually false, but it can be true a little bit. Dependent, a lot of people who are clairaudient enjoy music. A lot of people who are clairaudient are attracted to music, and that can be part of a sign that joins with the rest of them. But people who just love music, that are clairaudient and can speak to spirits on the other side, it doesn't mean because they love music or because they're a musician that they're clairaudient and they're mediumistically clairaudient. Because that means that every singer and every guitarist and every pianist, every person in the world that plays a musical instrument or sings would be a clairaudient medium. There would be a lot more talking to spirits going on, I can assure you, than there is. There is a lot of musicians out there that do not have the capacity for their psychic gifts, or do not have that capacity for spiritual clairaudience in that way, albeit objective or subjective. So that's a bit of a myth as well, guys. The fact that you're creative musically doesn't mean that you're actually you're clairaudient. The next thing. Let's jump on to the next things. Hearing, you know, if you hear a sound, I've kind of alluded to this at the beginning. You hear a sound outside of you that nobody else hears. That whether it's subjective or whether it's objective on the outside. Okay, maybe you are in, I don't know, maybe you're in a haunted house, maybe you're in a haunted monastery, maybe you are in somewhere and you're not focused on You're not focused on ghost hunting or anything like that, because your mind will play tricks on you and you can have pareidolia in a certain way. But let's say, for instance, you are, how could I say, for instance, an example would be, before my wife and I had a very serious car accident in the north of Scotland, and before that I heard my father, who'd passed from the other side, call my name and tell me to move. And I immediately jumped in front of Joanne, my wife, and we took the impact of a lorry that hit us at a high speed while we were stationary and had broken down, and we were waiting on someone to hold us. So hearing that voice outside of me in that situation can be a very definite sign of clairaudience. And in the same token, someone going into a home and maybe hearing a voice outside of them, and not, maybe they're going to buy a home or something and they hear the voice outside of them and it spooks them, that can be a sign that they're clairaudient, or they hear it in their mind. It's inside their mind subjectively. Maybe they're getting a warning or something like that. That's a sign, not consciously thinking of that particular thing at that time, but then hearing those words, whether it be in the mind or externally, is a definite sign of clairaudience. Here's the big one, guys. Ringing in the ears. Is it true or false? Absolutely, categorically false. It is not true that ringing in the ears is clairaudient and a sign of clairaudience, or that you are clairaudient. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, whether that upsets you or not, ringing in the ears can be tinnitus, but also ringing in the ears, if you're sensitive in any way, or even just with the amount of vibrations that are going on in the world and the amount of radio transmissions that's going on, that can be why you pick up, your ears are like an auditory radio, right? There is interference. These ringing in your ears that you hear at times, or that little high pitch, that note that's up there, doesn't mean you're clairaudient. It is not a sign of clairaudience, right? It's a sign that there's frequencies that you're picking up, and maybe they're radio frequencies that are, with everything that's going on and Wi-Fi, your ears can pick up this sign. They can pick up this frequency, and it can create this vibration around and create that noise. So hearing ringing in the ears doesn't mean that you are actually clairaudient in any way, okay? And that's the same with popping in the ears. Hearing your ears pop does not mean you're clairaudient. Everybody who was coming down on an airplane and heard their ears pop doesn't mean that they can speak to spirits in their mind or objectively that they were clairaudient because it pops, okay? And it's the same with buzzing in your ears. It's not the same. There is only really, in all honesty, to understand clairaudience, there is only really a couple of ways. Understanding what is objective and subjective, and recognizing the sensitivities that you have. You're sensitive to noise, okay? Definitely, okay? That you are, you're the only one that hears something like a warning, or you hear a noise outside of you that's very clear to you, but others don't hear. But there's some other falses, and there's some other truths that we're going to jump into as well, okay? Another sign that you may be clairaudient, and this as well can be a little bit in between both, is your love of reading. Because when you read, and you read a lot, you are getting a great deal of, you're training your mind, and you're training that subjective ability to hear your own thoughts, okay? And so when you're continually reading, or even if you're listening to audiobooks and things, when you're continually doing that, you're training your sensitivity to that and picking up that thing. So yes, reading a lot and having a love of reading and believing, hearing all that in your mind when you read something out, yes, that's a definite sign that there's a possibility that there's a clairaudient gift there. And so that would be something that would be right in line with actually hearing voices outside of you, or being sensitive to noise and things like that, okay? having an imaginary friend when you were young. True or false? It's false. Okay. A lot of people think because they have imaginary friends that they are clairaudient. That doesn't necessarily actually fit at all. Having an imaginary friend when you are young, when you're a baby, when you're very, very, very young, all of your senses are heightened. Okay, you are able to perceive the other side more readily than adults because adults have been mismatched with the material world and material law in this world. But as a youngster, as a young person, we are absolutely still attuned to the spirit vibration, and therefore we can pick these things up. But having an imaginary friend doesn't mean you're clairaudient. Okay, you will utilize clairvoyance, clairaudience, you will utilize all those feelings, but you won't know. You won't know to the realistically what that is. This is when you're so young because you're not tainted in any way. But it doesn't necessarily mean that just because you had that friend that you're actually clairaudient. It may be a little part of the story, but it's not a sign of clairaudience. That comes much, much later. Okay, so there you go. That is false as well. Well, I mean, hearing your spirit guides, yes, that would be a form of clairaudience because hearing your spirit guides, if you've developed that relationship to a decent level, they're going to be able to speak to you subjectively in your mind, and you will recognize that vibration through your learning of your discernment and understanding that process. That's kind of all that I can remember at the moment. There's probably a lot more to it, but a lot of what people say that they think is a sign of clairaudience is false. There really is only three small ways that you can definitely understand that you're clairaudient, and this is why you should really be developing with a really good teacher, a good mediumship teacher that will understand these aspects and won't fill you with false hope. So hearing the voices outside of you objectively, hearing it subjectively in your mind like you're reading a book, a sign of clairaudience. Okay, being very sensitive to noise and feeling maybe annoyed, you can't take much noise, you're very sensitive to it, definite sign of clairaudience. Hearing spirit guides in your mind subjectively or even objectively, definitely a sign of clairaudience. Popping ears, ringing in the ears, buzzing in the ears, all false. No, it's not true. Hearing your imaginary friend, seeing your imaginary friend when you're young, no, that's false as well. Being very vocal, just because you give someone advice and you're a vocal person, doesn't mean, again, that's false. All of these things that people will make you think that you're clairaudient are false. There's three main ways that you will know that you're clairaudient: sensitivity, internal dialogue that you're able to discern, external dialogue that you're able to discern, that you're not thinking about at that given time, that you're not connected and it's there, or hearing sounds and voices outside of you, that you're not on a ghost hunt and you're not trying to, because you'll make it up, like I said, pareidolia. But there's only these certain few ways, and the biggest thing is the sensitivity well, probably I would think the biggest sign of clairaudience is the sensitivity to noise. And just because you're a great singer or just because you're a musician doesn't mean that you're clairaudient, okay? That would mean that every musician in the world would be doing it, and I said that. The rest of all these things is all false. Just remember, guys, 3 to 4 things, 4 things max, that really you should learn and understand from a discernment process, that then you can develop your clairaudience. The rest of it is mumbo jumbo. So, guys, if you've got any questions, or if you just want to have a go at me and say that I'm wrong, this is my opinion. This is through years and years of development and practice. I understand. I don't want to give you false hope, and I don't want to take you down a wrong path. 3 to 4, these 4 things beforehand that I can give you are definite signs. The rest of them are just basically pipe dream. They hold no real evidential proof in any way, and certainly not ringing in the ears is a sign of clairaudience. God bless. Okay, guys, thank you for listening to everything, and thank you for being part of this experience. And here's a couple of things I want to share with you. This was my final announcement. Before, I've mentioned that I have a special group. This is a community group for those of you that are interested in the afterlife, that want to learn, that want to ask questions privately. Then you can join my private group, and it's not on Facebook. Go to the link below, fill in the form, and you'll get accepted into that group. And you can engage with me on a more regular basis. This is even separate to Instagram. The second thing is that I will be putting a piece of software, a place that you can go either in that group or just from a link, where you will be able to suggest to me things that you want to learn, things that you want to know, and I will be happy to teach them, and will be happy to let you guys start to develop the path that we're going on, so that you can feel more as part of this community, part of this experience that I'm sharing with you. I don't want you to think that you can't ask any question. No question is too silly, and no question is, if I don't know the answer, I'll find somebody that does. And lastly, let me just thank you again for being part of this, for being part of the podcast, for being part of this experience. And I hope you guys are staying safe. I'll see you in the group if you want to join. And also connect with me on Instagram. I'll speak to you guys soon. Check the links below. It's for you guys. God bless.